Hi, it's Mr. Stewart here with your assignment video for Level 2, the Run Assignment Part 1. And generally speaking, just a run that includes 4 steps. Now, a lot of times in other assignment videos, I've done run cycles, which is just one run through. But I think it tends to work better with the overall assignment, if you will do a running through space, because part 2 will be able to add some other things in there. So I'm gonna just have a character very quickly, and I'll make this a pretty simple character. Let me get set here. Just a quick little run, kind of starting from a standing position. And I'll just kind of, again, make this pretty simple. And get rid of that little extra piece. So one of the things you can do, and is kind of nice, is to be able to kind of give yourself a little bit of a plan of attack, both in timing and in spatially, how far the character will take each step. Make this a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go through and kind of figure out the different placement of the feet. Now, I could do this on the same level. I could do it on different keys. I'm going to just put in a new level here and figure out just really quickly kind of some of the main poses. And then kind of the main poses like this. And so that's my first pose. Now, I could make each of the steps exactly the same, or I could make them kind of increase or have some variation. I'm going to do just some different different kind of options here. And then maybe make this kind of a bigger step. This will be 1, 2, 3. And you can see I'm kind of trying to move a little bit back and forth in depth in space a little. And I'm just trying to add variation to the poses. I don't want it to feel exactly the same, like a cycle. I want to give some different differences. So here I'm going to maybe have kind of leaning back. You can see the steps starting to increase, so that's going to make it feel like he is accelerating, speeding up through there. So this I can figure out. Okay, start to feel out the timing. boom, 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 and start to get a sense. Now, if I do, let's see, let's do about 5 frames for each full step, which would mean that if I have maybe I have him sort of standing for just a few frames for now. So for 12 frames, then on frame 13. In fact, since this is my planning, I'm going to do that all the way to the end. Exposure, fill empty cells. There we go. So, so for this, like I said, just have this first drawing held for about 13. Then get into the anticipation, and maybe about 10 frames or so that I want to do kind of an anticipation. And I'm going to put some transparency on this and kind of knock that back even a little bit more. So that gives me a little bit of a little bit of a template. Kind of push this down here. And then from this, like I said, maybe 10 frames. You know, I might make it a little bit shorter. Let's do 6 frames. Fill selection. I always do that. The easiest one for me is always fill empty cells. And then now I'm going to put in the little bit more of the landing positions here. And quickly draw all of these in. And this will just take, you know, kind of getting into the into these. And I'm going to do 5, which is a little bit off. It's going to put things a little sooner, like or a little off kilter on 2s. So meaning that it's going to be more difficult to work on 2s when I'm working on in an odd number like this, because I'm going to probably end up working on 1s. And sometimes people try to avoid that, and I certainly did when I was younger. But for fast actions like this, I found that you get a much better result if you put in the time to define the movements. With extra drawings and extra frames. And I'm kind of playing with Gouache and stretch. Now, I'm not going to get too too detailed yet, because the reality is I probably will have to go in and adjust some positions of the arms, or maybe some positions of the legs, or the head nod, or different things like that, because as I really get into the animation and start going in a more sort of frame by frame approach, I'm going to probably set up a pattern of images, and it may or may not work directly into these poses. So I want to do my best to kind of give it my best shot, but I also want to be very aware that I can be flexible enough to change things around. And that used to drive me crazy. I used to want to know if I was done with the drawing, if I was done with the position, with the placement, or maybe I, should be. And I've just kind of gotten a little more patient with allowing for mistakes early on. I'll do my best. But mistakes tend to happen. All right, so let me, at least for the moment, hold that 5 frames 2, and empty cells. I'm going to save my file and just kind of see what my timing is looking like. So this gives me a little bit of a sense of what's going on with the timing. But, I kind of like the idea of having a longer anticipation. So I'm going to kind of push that over and see how that feels. And I might even push that just a little bit even further. Now this takes, this, you get better with practice. A lot of times people will ask me, so how do you know how long to keep something held for? And I don't exactly always know. Part of it is practice. But I like the contrast of having some longer stuff and then some quicker movements. So I could start to kind of fill out the extra pieces here, and I might put in a little bit more of an anticipation here. So let me delete these and put in another drawing. Get those drawings, get those hands up. And let's hold it to about here. Let's do this. Exposure cells. And then here I'm going to just start maybe kind of doing some best. Let's see, I don't know if I'm gonna love this. But just start kind of drawing out the run. And you can keep everything really clean. And that's obviously a joke there. I'm working very rough. And the reason for this is, I can always go back in and create better, cleaner drawings. Kind of figure out where fingers and all of those different things go. Okay, so just keep moving forward here. And I think the key with working rough like this is, for me, am I able to easily, am I going to be able to easily determine exactly what I am meaning by the drawing? Meaning, am I going to be able to go back and clean it up easily and quickly? And kind of know where I want my know where I want my character lines to be placed. So okay, so I'm getting a sense of kind of what the animation is going to look like. Uh, Another thing I try to keep in mind is kind of how the different shapes are going to travel from one spot to another. So, meaning if I'm looking at this little, so if I'm looking at my hand here, I'm looking at this green hand that you could barely just figure out that would be right kind of in there. And I'm looking at this hand here, and I'm looking at all three of those together. So that's a good spacing. It's going to be easy for, if I've got a spacing kind of like this, it's going to be easy for the audience to track. But if they're further apart, that's going to be a lot more difficult. So giving yourself room to be able to just kind of, if I'm going to separate, things, I'm going to stretch them to try and connect or overlap the object. So that'll be something that that I'm keeping in mind as to how to kind of squash and stretch, etc. So you can see here that I'm just kind of I'm going to kind of create that same sense of energy. And for this section up here, doing a pose test right now is fine. For the run, it really is kind of hard to do a pose test for a run. It's gonna be easier to get a real sense of the movement and what that movement is. If you go ahead and in between everything out. And this gives you the opportunity to kind of get a sense of straight ahead movement. And get a little bit more fluid action. And I can get, some kind of fun shapes. And I'm trying to do things that are similar to the last time I was doing the cycle, the last step. But they don't have to be identical. track that hand. But this is kind of a typical approach to kind of a first pass. So that you can really that's a funny face. So you can really kind of rough everything out and get a nice sense of the movement, because that's one thing I'll sometimes see students kind of struggle with is they'll want to get caught up a little bit too much in the finishing instead of really just kind of working through what are all the different pieces, what's the movement, and then once I have the movement working out, I can go back in and do some cleaner, nicer drawings. Now I've skipped ahead. I've done some animation here, and I'm gonna kind of finish it out. It just feels like it was kind of watching the paint dry to have me do all of these different steps on the assignment video. But there's a couple things I still think I can talk about. One is keeping the foot on the ground. If you'll notice that in all of my steps, I go from the back foot being on the ground to the front foot. And I used to try to do, an animation where I would, kind of have the foot on the ground and then I would push off. And then I would have this great frame or frames where it was in the air, both feet were off the ground, and then I would kind of come back like it was a jump. And it's not that you can't do a good piece of animation that way, but I've found that I get a lot better sense of weight if I will keep if I will keep one foot on the ground at all times. So now I need to still do this next drawing here, and I'm going to keep kind of finishing this out now, where when I'm going to bring the front foot down onto the ground, that big straight leg, that's when I can bring the back foot off the ground. So I get a transfer very quickly like this, and it just gives a nicer sense of mass and gravity and sense of weight to the character. And now I'm going to continue sort of animating my character off screen. Now this is something I always seemed to struggle with because I was so close. I just do a drawing, but really I have to do another full step, and make sure that I'm continuing with enough space, that he's traveling far enough that he's not actually feeling like he's slowing down, because sometimes that's a tendency to feel like it is easy to just make him kind of slow down. Let's do this. But I want to make sure all the spacing is feeling good. And it's getting a bit messy in there. And that's the difference between a messy drawing and a rough drawing. Like a rough drawing is a drawing I can still, as I mentioned earlier, I can still go back in at any time and I can figure out where I'm supposed to put the foot, the leg, the eyes. But if I just do a messy drawing, I might actually not know where I'm going to put all those pieces, because it's such a mess. I can't determine. It's like kind of, you know, not being able to read my own handwriting. I need to make sure that I'm drawing with enough clarity, even though if it's a rough, sketchy line, I have enough clarity that I'd be able to go back in at any point and clean that drawing up. At this point, I can stop animating what's in front, what's already left the page. And then here, I get that. So this gives me a pretty good sense of my run. Now I've got some volume issues. Looks like he gets a little bit bigger. And maybe it's just that it's a bigger jump, which it looks like it kind of is. And, you know, I could go in there and make some adjustments if I wanted to. And so go in and, move that down. Well, I don't want all of that. Well, here we go. I'm going to try to do this again here. There we go. That's what I'm looking at. And not sure what that is. Let me go in here and grab this cutter. Maybe that will help. There we go. Sure. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So I could go back in and make some adjustments very quickly, and kind of make that jump not as high. Then I could go back in and clean all of those things up when I do go through the next process of kind of making nice, cleaner drawings for the whole thing. So, but for a first pass of the run, I think this would be a pretty good way to go. I'd probably want to put in a color card or a background so that I could. So I could render it off, maybe just put in a quick little drawing, just BG layer, and then just kind of draw out a quick background and some clouds, the sun. However I want that. And now, gotta expose that. Hold on. Expose all of those. And fill those cells. There we go. And almost. There we go. Now I'm ready to get this. So, and this would allow me to turn this in and put me in a pretty good spot to get some feedback and then be able to turn that in for part 2 and finish everything out. But hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, good luck and have a great week.